Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into this episode on how do actors find work. I'm your host, Sianna Rivera, and with the help of my team and my special guest speaker, who I will introduce to you momentarily, we will be discussing not only how actors find work, but how to stay in the industry. By the end of the podcast, you've hopefully given you some listeners some information to better equip yourselves on the ins and outs of the industry, some of its history, as well as some helpful tips to maintain a steady source of income. As aspiring filmmakers, writers, editors, actors, especially, much of what we learn about the crafts that we want to pursue is basically on our own. And we have to polish those crafts on our own along with mentors, but it's a lot of like self-will and self-work. It's only so easy nowadays to Google acting jobs near me or how do I do a J cut on Adobe Premiere Pro, but personal experience, interactive conversations coming from people who have started as we have and who have gained experience like we hope to, that's what's truly invaluable. So, with that being said, I'm gonna start with introductions and introduce you all to my team and my special guest speaker so we can all get to the good stuff. So first, I'd like to introduce my good friend Saqqara Carroll. Her say hey.
Hey.
Her love affair with the fine arts started from a young age, ranging from dance groups, short stories, choir, and violin. Now, at 21 years old, her passion for filmmaking has led her to an associate's degree in cinema this semester, and she plans to take off to California in the summer to complete her bachelor's degree and pursue a career in directing, costume designing, and editing. Everybody, welcome Saqqara Carroll.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, and I would now like to introduce Mr. Ben Donnelly. He is 20 years old, originally from New Hampshire and moved to Virginia in 2019. In the fall, he plans to transfer to Arizona State University. And one of the main reasons why Ben has decided to join us today is because of his interest on how actors and filmmakers find work in the film industry. And I'm sure that's all why we're here too, because I would like to know as well. So say hello to Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
And finally, our special guest speaker, Miss Shea Davies. So Miss Shea Davies is an actress and producer based in New York City. Her favorite works include Mindy and Five Women Wearing the Same Dress, The Mother and Life Cycle, Ellipsis, Kristen in the Quickening, 100-person production of Spoon River anthology directed by Jimmy Mays. Is that correct, Jimmy Mays?
That is.
Cool. So she loves to connect with people and characters in work and real life, and her best advice for us, for everyone listening out here, is to just keep going. And that is great advice because we definitely need that kind of mojo. Again, thank you all for joining me in this discussion. Speaking, actually having a conversation like this is actually really helpful because how many people do we know in the industry that we could just contact out of the blue and be like, hey, tell me what you know? Like, it's honestly very difficult.
It is, yeah, it can be really hard because, hopefully those people are super busy working
Yeah.
and don't have time to talk or, it can just be really tough to kind of get answers.
Right. And in experience, you're super busy. Your schedule is always extremely packed. Like, I don't know how you manage it all.
I am not managing very well. I'm a little overwhelmed these days. It is less to do with like acting stuff and more life stuff, but yeah. Yeah, so you just do what you can and then the rest falls to the wayside.
Absolutely. And speaking of actually your acting background, I was wondering if there were any like films or actors in particular that kind of inspired you to pursue your career as acting, like people that you watched in film and like no matter what they were in, you were like, I'm watching that movie because that person is in it.
I mean, I think I think you actually mentioned this and I was like, well, yeah, that's definitely true. I feel like everybody like looks up to Meryl Streep as sort of like kind of just amazing actress. And to me, like, she is like someone who like she is like plugged into the soul of the, of the universe. Like she just is like, she just has such an amazing connection to like all the characters she plays. And she just has this sort of otherworldliness, and she's one of those people that like every actress when they get up on stage to win any award is thanking her, because usually she's in the category that somebody else has won for, but everybody's thanking her.
Absolutely. She's the OG. She's like the mother.
Yeah. She's like Queen Victoria, like the mother.
Seriously.
But I mean, there's so many amazing performers out there these days, and especially like, you know, there's so many amazing like male performers always, but like we're kind of in this incredible time where like women are in a lot more leading roles, and also, you know, people of color and different colors, and you know, all different like shades in between. And so there's just so many people. It's like, you know, when you ask the question like, who are you watching, I'm like, I'm watching everybody. Like, like this just like what's the expression, like it's just like my cup runneth over with just so many good performances. Like Viola Davis, I feel like it's just crushing in so many ways. Sandra Oh, Toni Collette, Kate Winslet, I mean, Kate Blanchett, like, I mean, there's just so many different performers, and like Eva Longoria and Penelope Cruz, and like, there's just so many brilliant actors and actresses out there. It's just kind of amazing. Olivia Colman,
absolutely.
Like, you know, like, so, but those are all actresses. Sorry. So
no, you're fine. We need some representation up in here for women, because honestly, like, it's honestly still like the ratio of like male actors to female actors in one production and one TV show, one film is like extremely outstanding. Like there's definitely 2 males to every 1 female, unless it's like a female led production, then you're just like, you're looking for some girls, you're looking for some, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think so much of that has to do with, you know, the representation kind of in the writers' room as well. You know, this is an industry where it is a very male dominated industry, and so, you know, they're writing their stories, and that's great. And you know, we've had so much great work, but now all of a sudden, like with like Shonda Rhimes becoming this like huge showrunner, and like the female leadership, there are more stories like Orange is the New Black, and you know, where there are more female stories out there, and or just there's an evening of the scales that is really neat to watch. You know, like there's so many cool stories about men. Like I love that movie Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, or The Departed. Like that was like just, you know, just a feast of like amazing male actors, but you know, like there's also that's happening with women as well. So that's cool. And like what's the Handmaid's Tale, I don't know if you guys have watched that show. Such a show. It's so brilliant.
It is amazing. It really is. For me, honestly, like the first, like when I mentioned Meryl as the OG, that really is like the first person who kind of like touched my heart as an actress, because I remember I was like 7, 8 years old, and the first movie I watched that was like, I don't know, the first movie that I could like, I guess, understand our like articulate themes of like basically just like reality and facing reality versus like remaining in their ignorance and the illusory. Like for example, she was the in Florence Foster Jenkins, she played this opera singer who couldn't sing, and everybody do you remember? And everybody knew, but she didn't. And I remember when it was like the last scene when she heard herself actually sing, because people wanted to break it to her like, girl, you are not it. Like people actually are laughing at you. And her reaction had me crying. I was 7 years old. I didn't think I would be able to understand what was going on, but like for Meryl to be able to channel that kind of emotion and for that to read through for me, that's what really inspired me to like look into acting more as like such a very powerful skill that people can like really reach through to you through the screen. That was amazing. And ever since then, everything she's done, I watch The Devil Wears Prada, Little Women, especially Julie and Julia. Like those movies are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, I haven't actually seen Florence Foster Jenkins, but I do believe in Meryl Streep's you know, she's magical. But, you know, like what was neat about Little Women too was like this whole other generation of younger actors who were also super, like Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
She is wonderful. And I don't know if you all have seen this
Saoirse Ronan.
It's Saoirse Ronan. I mean,
Yeah.
she's brilliant, and she's always been like that brilliant. And Emma Watson, is that one? And I forget the other woman, but you know, it's just there's just so much. And Timothy Chalamet, there's just so many like brilliant people out there who are really just kind of bringing this sort of humanity to their roles. So it's cool.
Are there any other actors for you guys, Ben or Saqqara, that you guys seem to watch more often?
No, I kind of watch like a hodgepodge of people. I'm not like particularly attached to anybody. I like I'm attached to more of like film genres, you know, or like eras of film more than the people themselves. But I like the people that obviously give really great performances. I just don't think that I'm like, yes, this is it. You're me. You're for me.
Right.
Each other, or at least I don't pay enough attention. I actually hated films for a while. I actually did not like watching films for a long time. Yeah.
Really?
What brought you back? What got you back on?
I mean, me becoming a film major. Before I was a pre-med major. So I hated going to the theaters. I hated because I was like, it's a waste of time. I have to get out of my bed and do all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, like
You're probably like too busy to be entertained.
Yeah, but kind of just like watching more and like learning way more about it past just the entertainment value of it, but learning about the artist and it as an art and the teamwork that goes into it, etc. Like that's what made me more invested in it. And then I have a greater appreciation for films. But even nowadays, there's so much stuff to watch. I get overwhelmed, so I don't watch anything. It's just a lot of stuff, and I just don't get to it, and it's kind of bad because I need to learn from it, but I just don't have.
Right.
Well, it's hard, you know, there's so many things where you have to like stop and look at a shot, or if the dialogue's coming too fast, like it's so funny and you're laughing, but you're like, did I miss anything? And like some of the shots are just so incredible these days where you're like, where they pull a focus and it's like there was this one shot in the movie about Queen where the whole shot is a reflection of from his sunglasses. And I was like,
that's cool.
Nice.
that is so sick. So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, Ben. You go.
Oh, I was. You actually gave me time to think about what I was gonna say, so I appreciate it. I guess I kind of what Kyra was saying. Like I watch more based on just genres or movies I find interesting than a specific actor or director. But I was thinking, we were talking about Meryl Streep, who is great, and she was in one of my favorite movies, which is Kramer versus Kramer, and she was in that with Dustin Hoffman, who I really like. So I'd probably say him. And if y'all haven't seen that movie yet, recommend it 100%. Check it out. Great movie.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful movie. It's a hard movie to watch, but it's just so like real.
Right.
Yeah, very good. I actually liked it way more than I thought I would. Like I watched it because I was trying to like watch all these classic movies, and I know that won Best Picture in 1979, I think. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I kind of got like really pulled into it. I was like, and most of it's honestly because of the acting, because of the great performances. I was like, this is a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And
super beautiful.
And when we talk about like, you know, those acting performances, we think about like, damn, like where do people get these skills? Like because not everything is honestly like you can go to many acting classes to, you know, kind of polish a few techniques that you may be working on when it comes to like meeting your mark or like line delivery. But it's honestly it's definitely like a wonder to me, a mystery how people can actually become the character, be the character, and then that's who I'm convinced that they are. So it's like my question is for actors, like I wonder what classes or what lengths did they have to go to in terms of education to be able to like get to that level of the greats like Meryl Streep, you know what I mean? I mean,
I don't know. I think that like, I think that everyone's path to, their sort of brilliance is very, very different. I did get a chance to work with a man who was in graduate school when Meryl Streep was in undergrad. And he said like, they would all stop and watch her work. Like, and he's like at a higher level than she was at that point, but they were just like, it was just like a mesmerizing thing. So I think that, certain people are kind of born with this sort of innate thing, like Kirsten Dunst, who we were talking about earlier, and Reese Witherspoon, they've kind of been equally as brilliant. They've grown as actors, but they've been kind of, and it's not like they don't work on their craft, because they do a lot. But like Bryan Cranston, who was in Breaking Bad, he talked about how when he was taking acting classes, he didn't want to get like too sort of comfortable in any class where he was, or any sort of technique. So he like branched out and did a lot of different techniques. And Dustin Hoffman and I think Gene Hackman, they're very much based in the Meisner technique, and they used to like practice together. I think I'm getting this right. And but I think you just have to find something that works for you and run with that. And sometimes, if something's not working, you have to find something else, So I think that it's great to take classes to develop your technique, because the whole thing about like theater or film is that, those brilliant moments that you see on film, and like Florence Foster Jenkins, like they have to do that same thing, like between like 4 and maybe 25 times, depending on, because like, I mean, film is crazy with the amount of things that can go wrong. So, it can be like the most brilliant take ever, and like all of a sudden there's like a boom,
Like the audio, something really random.
Yeah, there's so many uncontrollable factors. And that's why like every time I'm working on like a film's like a independent film that's like my friend is trying to make their like story into a short film or whatever, I marvel. I'm like, it is amazing that there is so many brilliant things out there, because like it is such a crazy process, and that's so imprecise and precise all at the same time. Like the camera stuff is very precise and the sound stuff is very precise, but like the rest is held together by like paper clips and rubber bands. Like there's just so many things like that.
Right. So I was actually, because I was wondering like basically if there were any other classes that an actor could take that would help them prepare for like the business, or prepare just to be able to, work. Because I know there was like a particular quote for me that I was reading from like an article. Tina Fey, she wrote the screenplay for Mean Girls, right? And she was actually giving advice to actors and said, basically, if you want to be a screenwriter, take an acting class to be able to get a sense of what you're asking actors to do. And it's helping me in particular because like in the acting class that I'm taking, having that in mind, basically as a writer, now I understand how to like deliver my lines with purpose, or with like an infliction of emotion that's specific to what they're saying, or like, their inner objective, their inner goal. And as a writer, I know how to like write lines with purpose now. And that's kind of like helped, me both ways. So that's why I was wondering, like, some actors, they should probably take like a production class so they know, like, the stamina to be in that moment.
Yeah, actually, like on, whatever my YouTube algorithm is, there's this commercial I keep seeing about this guy who's like, hey, this business is not geared for actor success. It's not, the cards are all stacked against you. The best thing you can do is like have your own production company, and I'm going to show you like how to do this. And you guys are already like, 5,000 times smarter than I was when I was your age, because you're like working together and creating this production like independently, and like, so, it's all about like, I think as an actor, the more you know about what what goes into a production, the more flexible you can be on set and understanding, like, because the thing that I have found challenging is that, you know, setting up any shoot takes anywhere from like 2 hours to 4 hours. And all of a sudden it's finally done. And they're like, okay, actors in, go be brilliant. And like, meanwhile, we've been like shooting the bull and snacking for like 4 hours. So like, you know, so we're like stone cold. It's not like we're getting ready to play soccer or something and we're like warming up on the sidelines or like pitching, you know, we are stone cold. So it's like, the more that everybody understands, like a lot of actors need to warm up, not all, you know, some people are just like hit their marks and are brilliant every time. But like, you know, the more you understand, like give people 10-minute heads up, you know, and then if they're not prepared, it's on them. But like, if you just like expect people to just be like, come off the bench completely cold and like do the thing that you need them to do, then, you know, there's just a lot of communication gaps. So like the more you're empowered about like how scripts get made or how to speak to actors or how to speak to like your crew about, you know, how to articulate what you want, what the tone of what you're going for is. And like, you know, and also like, because we all watch so many films and TV shows, we have good reference points, you know, so we can be like, I want the tone of this. So, you know, and also for acting too, you know.
Absolutely.
So that.
Well said.
Yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Because I was also like the other day I just found like a video like on TikTok and it was about Cardi B literally giving advice to women in the music industry. She was like, you should take a business class because if you don't know how to take a business, you're not gonna understand how to market yourself as a rapper, as an artist, basically in this industry. Like you need to know about your money, you need to know about how the industry works to be able to basically make it. And that makes a lot of sense when you said how basically actors actors need to know about the process of production because it isn't always catered to like when they're available, what their time is. It's like you have to be ready on the fly and be remarkable on the fly. Like the minute they say, all right, you're up in a second, you got to be ready to go right then and there. And that takes a lot of skill. That takes absolutely a lot of skill. And so a point that I kind of want to like that I want to make sure I get across or like that I want to like, you know, brush up on is basically when it comes to skills like that on set, like when you have to do things like 25 to 50 times and it's the same scene within like a span of an hour, like what skills should actors invest in order to be able successful in their acting career when it comes to things like that? Like of course we know you need memory skills off the bat. Of course you need to be able to like ad lib because there are some actors like
Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
McCarthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What is it called? Nicolas Cage. Like he
Yeah.
had an affinity for like right. He's
he's so strange, but I love
Nicolas
Very
Cage.
interesting, man.
He's an interesting actor, but he has a tendency to ad lib, and it's kind of hard as an actor. Like when you're fresh off the boat, you're like, okay, where do I come in? How do I say, like, you need to know that like off the bat, like how to do those things.
Well, I mean, okay. One is like, if you have technique, like one thing that's nice about classes is that you establish sort of like a work ethic. So a lot of it is like building skills where you're working on scenes, you're analyzing them. And so an actor, it's not like you come to set and you just know your lines. You've rehearsed either on your own or with the other people a lot. So that your muscle memory is there. So then, you know, so then like, you know, like, especially with film, because it's so technical, you know, like sort of your eye lines and it's good to rehearse with a camera just so you can kind of make sure that you're not moving too much, you're within your frame. But I would definitely say, like, in terms of technique, like I think that there's a big emphasis, at least I've seen in auditions, they really want to know that you have improv experience. Now, actors improv all the time. Like, I mean, everybody improvs all the time. Like, you're having a bad day and somebody asks you how you're doing. You're like, I'm great. Everybody's improving all the time. That's not like something that somebody made up. But I think what's great about improv is it teaches you to not be afraid of failure. Because you'll fail a ton of times, but it's like you're always thinking thoughts and you just go with one, it doesn't work, and you just move on. So I think that, it kind of helps you, especially if you're someone who's a little bit more anxious and nervous, it helps with that. I think a lot of actors who are super successful are very good athletes and understand that failure, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And so they're not afraid to give it 150% and maybe fail, so I think, I don't know if I'm really answering the question. I would say the techniques would be, get in acting classes where you do scene work. And also improv classes if you can, because it really does help you. It helps kind of take the fear of failure away and that self-conscious feeling. Because you have to be an idiot a lot as an actor. And so, be an idiot. But I would also say, like, in terms of the business stuff, I'm sure you've seen like little 8-year-old like entrepreneurs who like come and like sell you pot holders, and they're like, they're $5 each. And you're like, man, I wish I was like that when I was 8 years old. Like, some people actually are like natural business people. So it is good to like up those skills. And as an actor, like, so much of what you do is auditioning. And so if I were to create a class that was like, to help prepare actors for the world, it would be like, okay, this is your resume, this is your picture, show me your audition, show me your audition for this, show me your audition for this. And then like, we would go over the sites that you go to look for jobs and all the other things, like really try and put those practical skills, just trying to, and create like a realistic, like, this is what this is going to be like, like, and not like, not in the way that, I've definitely had people, over the years, I'll ask them, I'm like, well, what should we do as an actor to like help our career? And they're like, don't act. And, and it's just like, it's, we can all be glib and, mean, but, let's be practical. Like, most of all, like, this is the skill you're going to need: auditioning and applying for auditions and auditioning again.
Right.
And yeah, so
like, when we're talking about the resume, like you just said earlier, so I was always wondering, because in my acting class we had a look at just like a few professional resumes from his past students, and the skills lists were incredible and incredibly diverse too. And I didn't realize like things like having a valid passport, driving, could be on an actor's resume. Like, that was kind of a shocker. I was like, why would that be like a valid thing when it comes to deciding whether or not you're going to hire an actor? Like, literally, it was like, I have a passport, I have a valid driver's license. Like, why have that?
Okay, so here's another thing, and this is something that I really want to make very, very clear. Things happen so fast, and the actors get added in last. So production, they may have like a month of production meetings for a commercial that's a budget, a gazillion-dollar budget that they're filming for like cheapcaribbean.com. They will literally add in the actors the week before they go. So the actors are always the last people to know, the last people to get cast, maybe 2 weeks before they go. So say that they've spent, and like, also as actors, like, do your best when you get to an audition to be like super prepared, super, the person who really stands out in the room as being the one who like is on top of their shit. Because it is, when you are applying, it's similar to like applying for jobs. When you're applying for an acting job, you may send out 100 resumes and you will get 2 auditions from those resumes. So that's a lot of work. But once you get in that room, you better own that room. Like you were born in that room and like you want the part. But say a casting director, they might be there from 9 to 5 p.m. and see, you know, maybe like 100, 200 people in the day. That's why I'm saying be the best person in that room, or be the best version of yourself. Because as long as you've done your best, you can feel good. So if they pick 2 people for that cheap Caribbean ad, and it's being filmed in like 2 weeks in Aruba where you need a passport to get to, if one of those people after that audition is like, well, thanks so much for the part, I need to get a passport. You can't get a passport in 2 weeks. I mean, it's not something that you have to have on your resume. Believe me, like if you get to the point where you're about to book a commercial or you get to go somewhere dope like that, they will call you and make sure you have a resume. Like that will be one of their first follow-up questions. So it's not something that's necessary, but the resume, I mean, the special skills section of the resume is more about like talking points than anything. You know, okay, so sure, if you are a super skilled martial artist, that's something you want on your resume because that's something that can be useful in so many ways. But, you know, for the most part, it's more like an interesting follow-up question that they can ask. Like they can look at your resume and be like, oh, you're super into swing dancing. And then they can have a little conversation with you and decide whether or not you're someone that they want to spend the next 2 weeks working with. You know, because really what it's about is like, yes, they want brilliant actors for sure. But more importantly, they want someone who they can work with and are confident are not going to like just halt all of the hard work they've done. You know, like at the end of the day, you want to be the person that people can work with. And that is like the most important thing.
That makes sense. Because I also saw like stunt weaponry experience, and I was like, where do you get a class that shows you how to do that?
There are all sorts of classes like that.
Right.
Yeah, there are. Usually they're like summer classes, but I did in college, I did get to take like a stage combat class, and it was by far the best class I took in college. But like all of my friends were like, stage combat? I could have taken that class. Like that sounds so much more fun than like anthropology 503. Like
yeah, right.
For like 2 25-page papers. That sounds way more fun.
I like how you mentioned just kind of, it's not just about like talent, but actually working with people. Because as a person that's made like multiple short films and stuff, it's like people don't realize, like, even if I really liked your talent, if I hate you, I don't want you on my set.
Yeah.
We have to be on set for each other like 12 hours a day sometimes. Like I remember and I'm the director, I have to, every decision, the color of something, people would ask me 1,000 things. I have to set the composition, the camera, everything. It's like if actors run out of stamina and they start giving me attitude or just like a lot of stuff, I'm just like, it wasn't worth working with you because you're making me more tired. And so I like what you said about that, because sometimes just likability is what can get your foot in the door.
Oh, hell yeah. And it's what gets you, like, keeps getting you hired. So it's just, you know, and like people that work a lot, like they have good reputations for a reason. Like Matt Damon, Hugh Jackman, they're like notoriously like the best people to work with. And so it makes a huge difference. I mean, obviously they're like genius people that you're like, well, we can't do it without that person. But, you know, like if you're starting out in your career, you are not that genius. Mm-hmm. Work on your like on being the person that people want to work with, because work on your flexibility, work on being personable, work on keeping your mouth shut, you know, like, like that shit's important. And like, you know, especially when it's like a short film or, you know, something that you've got like a small window of time that you need to get done. Like everybody gets a little snippy on set. That happens, but you don't want to be the only person who's like grinding it to a halt. You know, and Sianna and I had this conversation, that we had this conversation on the phone last week too, where I've had this experience with as an actor where it will, and to your point, Saqqara, is that, you know, sometimes you can tell. And that's why I was saying that these are about follow-up questions. Like the special skills are often about follow-up questions, because that's just the one question you're like, can I get along with that person? You can tell. And like what I was saying to Sienna was like, there have been times I've gone into production with people understanding that they weren't as organized as at like the level that I needed in order for me to be not stressed on the production. But I still went ahead with it and was just like miserable the entire time. And there's just no reason to do that to yourself, especially when you're just starting out. A lot of your short films are on your own budget, and as an actor, you're basically like just giving your time for free. It's just, yeah, there's just, you want to be happy, like work with people you can work with and who are going to ultimately like help move you forward. I mean, like bad experiences, not bad experience. I don't want to say good or bad, but challenging experiences are good for everyone. It really builds you as a person. But at the same time, like if you see that red flag, don't do it. Take someone who's a little bit lesser of an actor who you can work with and make them shine, because it's going to help you too.
This is actually a good point in the conversation that we have gotten to, because like theoretically we kind of went through the ins and outs of the resume. We kind of know that we have to basically be prepared for the stamina it takes to do audition after audition after audition. And basically now I want to talk about actually looking for an audition and basically knowing, for an actor, knowing a character that they can play, knowing their type, and being able to secure an audition based off of that kind of notion. Because I know that from experience, like people, like there's obviously an age range where casting directors are looking for when it comes to like a certain character they want to cast for. And it's very important for an actor to know where they stand in that range, or if they can even go into that range, like, okay, 15 to 29, sure, that fits me, but can I play this kind of character? Does that matter when it comes to like choosing an audition? Because obviously you want to be able to audition for a project that you're going to be invested in, because that's going to be a lot of time. And like, how can you be invested into a character that you have no relation to or no connection to personally? And so
Yeah. I mean, I would say on like a time value scale, only, I mean, like, listen, you're going to be applying for a ton of auditions. Only pick ones that you think that you can play and that you feel like are going to be valuable for you, because your time is valuable. So, and like, the more you value your own time, you're also saving them the trouble of being like, oh, like this person's totally inappropriate for this role. Just kind of like, if you could, because I think that there's this expression, and I really don't like it, about like, just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And I'm like, that is literally the worst piece of advice I could ever imagine. Like, sure, try a bunch of things, but like, don't spread yourself too thin, like develop yourself, develop your skill set, sure, but don't waste anybody's time. Like time is like the one thing that we cannot get back. Don't waste your time, don't waste somebody else's, if you can help it. I mean, like, sure, we're all going to make 1,000 gajillion mistakes, but
right.
For the most part, like, your time is valuable. Value it.
Yeah. I think that the catch-22 of that, though, is that once you find something that sticks, it's kind of hard to create range in the work that you do once you find yourself like gravitating towards a particular role. Like when people find you good for one thing, then that becomes like your trademark, and you only get hired for that one particular role that you can play. Like
Megan Fox. I always
yes,
that for her because I think that she's like a really good actress, but everybody always puts her in like that hot
that sex pot position.
Yeah, like when she was doing Jennifer's Body, and they made the entire film marketed towards like horny teenage guys. And that wasn't the film. Like the scriptwriter was like,
right.
It was for women. Like it was about her friendship, relationship, kind of almost a little gay thing. Yeah, I was like, and so it kind of messed her up. Like she likes the film, but she was like, the way they marketed was me as like the sex pun 3,000 person. And so I know she's constantly being put in those roles, even though I think she could have really good range.
But see, that's something like, if you were starting out, that's something like you shouldn't worry about. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, in my opinion, like make $1 billion and then make your own film. is something that you want to play. Like, don't not apply for things because you're afraid of getting pigeonholed. Get pigeonholed for a while. Let people get to know you, and then build your career, build your bank account, and then do what you want. You know, or then you have more leverage to choose a different to come back with a different conversation to your agent or manager and be like, you know what, I want to play more things. And if they say, well, you're just this thing, then you're like, well, I'm going to see if somebody else will represent me and help me with this. You know, like, I think Ryan Gosling had a really good, I think his like agent manager relationship, like he was very clear, and they were very clear from the beginning that he wanted to play like many different roles. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten to see the movie Lars and the Real Girl.
I thought you were going to mention that. Yeah, that's a great movie.
It's such a great movie, and it's all about how he bought like a blow up doll because he was lonely, and like the entire small town that he's in like embraces this blow up doll as his like partner. And it's just such a crazy off the wall. It's so sweet. Like, it's such a beautiful, isn't it such a sweet movie, Ben?
Yeah,
like,
it's got a lot of heart. It's really good.
It has so much heart, and he's so sincere, and like everybody just gets on board with this crazy plan. And I think is he grieving the loss of his parents, or something happened where he was like grieving the loss of someone, and like this became his like new thing.
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so, you know, he has a good relationship, but like Ryan Gosling, like he started in like Canadian Star Search when he was like 7, and he was on the Mickey Mouse Club. So like, you know, he's someone who has options at like 14, which very few people have, you know what I mean? So like, build your career, especially when like you're in your 20s, you know, and like there are a lot of roles for 20-year-olds, like, but at the same time, the roles are very stock characters traditionally, you know, like, they would be roles on Riverdale, which is a very cool show, but you know, like, but you know what I mean? Like yeah, just, but you don't like Riverdale?
We're like, we're like, can't agree with you on that one.
We'll draw the line at Riverdale.
I haven't seen it, actually. I haven't seen it. I heard it was like,
okay. So that's why you mentioned, because if you would have seen it up until now, which honestly I haven't, but I would say I couldn't get past the first season.
Same.
Regardless,
right? But what they're doing now? Have you heard what they're doing now? They're making it seem
it's like a mirror universe.
Yes, it's like they're giving the characters super.
Doesn't Archie have superpowers now? Wasn't Archie like just a comic about them being in a band?
Yes,
like, and Archie is like literally the dorkiest comic book ever, and they totally like sexified it. Yeah. But I mean, I guess my thing is like, if you're in your 20s, like I forget what network, like CW is the network that you should be targeting. You should be targeting their shows, finding out like, because the thing is like in New York and LA, there are all these sort of meetings that you can have with casting directors. So you want to have like a strategy. You're like, okay, well, CW is hiring people who look like me, who are in my age group. Law and Order SVU always has people like me. Let me see if I can take a class with this casting director so I can get on their radar and start this relationship with them. So, I mean, the thing is like everything costs money. Like for a long time, like basically your education is going to be like while you're working and building a life, and so you're going to be paying to work for a while. You know, not everybody, not Reese, not Ryan,
right.
not Kirsten Dunst, but you know, for a long time, that does seem to be the reality of the situation. I mean, work as much as you can, but don't worry about getting pigeonholed. Don't worry. Like, establish yourself, make some money. Don't, you know, I'm trying to think of like the most positive way to say this. Make your financial stability and your spiritual stability and your foundation of your friends and your coworkers, make that the most important thing, and build from there. You know, like just the whole like starving artist thing, that's a cliche. It just like there are other ways to do it these days. There are other ways to do it. So, and to really be proactive and for yourself and to create your own films that feature you in roles that you would like to play and dialogue that you think is cool and, helps your friends to like collaborate and make shit that you think is awesome, you know?
Right, absolutely. Because honestly, like that whole phrase "a dollar and a dream," like honestly, it doesn't really apply to people who want to be in the film industry and the entertainment industry. Like it's really not a dollar and a dream. It's like 24 hours a day working, and if you got a few bucks to eat, that's cool. But if you don't have anything to invest yourself in terms of like agent management, getting the classes, like you said, that it takes to polish yourself, like it's really not going to happen for you if you don't apply yourself in all those different ways. Like
And
honestly,
yeah, and if you don't have money to take the classes, which, most people don't,
right,
then, you know, build on the relationships that you have with people that you are taking classes with. Like, this is so cool. This is so much more high-end production than like when I was in school. So, make films with each other, and like keep honing your skills, keep honing, keep like developing your body of work and also just developing your knowledge of the process and keep being creative, keep those creative like wheels turning and doing something that really works for you in a way that feels good. I mean, because that's the whole thing is like when you are feeling good, like you are just attracting things like a magnet and it makes a huge difference.
right, absolutely. And actually what you brought up earlier when it came to like TV and film acting, like have like the CW especially, I was wondering actually like the differences in like the production processes, the differences in like acting techniques and styles. Maybe if there is a difference, if there's not at all, but I was wondering like how different it is for like a TV actor versus a film actor, and like can you do like simultaneously both jobs? And this is also dependent whether or not you're union or non-union too. But that's another conversation. But yeah,
Well, I mean, like, listen, if you're doing anything that's like network TV or film, like you're in the union.
I see.
And
I didn't
the
know.
way that typically actors are able to do both is that TVs have a season where they work, and then they'll agents will coordinate with filmmakers to fill in the rest of your schedule. So if you're working on a TV show, say you're like a series regular on Gossip Girl or whatever, then during your break, you would go and make The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, or there would be, and if that like conflicted a little bit with your season, maybe you wouldn't be in a couple episodes, or they just have you for one day of shooting and then you would be able to go for 5 and go to the shoot, depending on where it was. So that's my understanding of how it's coordinated. Unfortunately, I've never been in the position where I've been like, oh, I've gone from like play to play before, but I've never like crested network TV or film. I've been in like independent stuff only. That's it.
Right, but I can't imagine having to do that schedule you just said. Like, that's so stressful in my head when I think about it. Do a TV show one day and the next 4 days you're doing your film. Like, how do you do that? That's
Dude, I mean, like, are you kidding? Like, you know, say you're doing a TV show, which is like already that is an amazing opportunity. It's like it's amazing in so many ways. Like, one, you're getting a steady paycheck. Two, you have a job to go to. You're building your acting skills, and other people are getting to see you all over the world. Heck yeah. Then someone like Martin Scorsese is like, "Hi, we'd like you to do this bit part in this movie." You're like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah. You just make it work.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though it sounds stressful and it probably is
Yeah,
really stressful, you're just like, I'll sleep another day, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I guess so, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting because I honestly didn't know whether or not like I didn't know the limits of like union versus non-union work, because I know definitely like when you're associated with the union, there's like limits to what work you actually can do, and none of it is outside of union. Like there's actually I'm pretty sure like I was listening to a Ben Hauk podcast the other day, and he was talking about how as a union member, you like are forbidden from doing any non-union work, or you have to pay some sort of like fee. And I didn't. Yeah. Mhm.
They do have, I'm not totally sure. I can't speak to this, but I also feel like at this point, it's kind of like above your paint grade. Like that shit you don't have to worry about don't worry about it until you have to worry about it. But, you know, there are a lot of SAG ultra low budget films. And to be honest, like once you get to the union status, you're probably not trying to work on a non-union film. Like there are very few films that have a good budget and a good director and like a good crew and a good script that are non-union. You know, like they're going to try and make their film union just because the caliber of people they can attract for crew, for cast, everybody's going to be in the union. You know, like the only people who may not be in the union would be like a PA.
Oh,
yeah. And even then I might be wrong about that. They may have to be in the union too.
I was wondering about that because I know there are two unions. There's like the Actors Equity Association, right? And then there's SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, that's just very complicated because I know like the history of like SAG-AFTRA, they were like two separate unions and now they merged, and now like actors who are like under the unions, like there was a whole drama for a few years about like their pension plans not being merged. And now, like, you know, actors obviously who are union, who have been a part of the business obviously for like ever and a day, they're like, where's my money? And so that's why I was wondering like what, like there are some definite cons to being union versus non-union.
I mean, there are way more pros than cons, to be fair. But it's definitely one of those bridges. I've heard this advice from many people. It's like, don't cross that bridge until you have to, because you do have to pay union dues and stuff like that. But you know, it again, like I think for anybody who's starting out, that conversation is a conversation that is had later. You know, like the main thing you would need to focus on is finding work for yourself, finding like an apartment, stabilizing your finances, developing your friend group, like having your team and working on your skills.
When you talk
You know?
about doing like stabilizing your money, because obviously you're not going to be hitting the big bucks for a while, if ever, you know, you never know. But I know people were talking about like weird side hustles, because I saw you know, I think nowadays it's a lot better, because I know some people were saying, you know, trying to do a 9 to 5, it's just impossible. I mean, even right now, me doing a 9 to 5, I'm going to my 9 to 5 after this. It's like it kind of stamps your creativity a little bit, and it's quite tiring. So I mean, what would you recommend other than like the general waitress one? Because I've seen some people do like pretend to be a medical student, like they'll act like as one, so that they'll act like a patient so that medical students can like practice on them, you know, or just
I mean, like that is like that's a fairly good gig, to be fair. The other gig, which is kind of a good gig, and I don't know too much about it. I know people who've done it, is doing stand-in work can be a really good gig. Now those are very like long days. So like say like on a show like Law and Order SVU, like Mariska Hargitay, Ice-T, they all have stand-ins, so that when they're setting the lights, they don't have to stand and like on their feet for four hours while they're setting up. So that can be like a fairly lucrative gig. And when I'm talking about like, I mean, this is all sort of like freelance work. I mean, that can be the thing that's like very catch as catch can. You have to figure out what works for you. Like if you are someone who like thrives on security and someone who like needs a regular set schedule, then yeah, figure out your 9 to 5. You know, even if your 9 to 5 starts at like 6, you know, figure that out. Because like the truth is that everybody has something different that works for them. You know, like I have friends who wake up at like 5 a.m. and are in bed by 9:30. I could not do that. But yeah, I mean, there are some fairly lucrative fairly lucrative like acting gigs. So, you know, the stand-in gig is one, the medical research one, commercial work for actors can be really helpful. You know, that can be like a nice chunk of change between like, if it's in like a network commercial, it can be like 25 grand, between 25 grand and like 200 grand. Like Flo,
Just
she
like,
makes
yeah,
a
that's what I'm saying. I was like,
Yeah.
Flo, the AT&T girl, it's like, I just know them just because of them now. Like,
They make a lot of money. Yeah.
they make a lot of money, but Flo like used to live on Long Island in New York and like come on the 4 a.m. train and wait with everybody else in the Actors Equity line at 5 a.m. and like get on the call, get on the waiting list at 7 and like wait for audition. So she was like really, really working hard before she landed that super, super lucrative gig. You know, I think like financial stability can be really tough. Bartending, I think, is a really good gig because you can make a lot of money if you are okay with drunks and being a night owl. Then that can really work well for you. You know, the other thing is like if you're more into being a director or your interest is like more production, producing, or lighting or anything like that, like I would honestly, if acting's not like the thing that you really, really want to do and you want to do a more production side, I would recommend working for a production company and being like the office PA, because then you're getting to work on, you're getting to work with production people. You're getting to see like the logistics of how shoots get pulled together. And oftentimes you will get to work on shoots. Like some office production managers become part of the creative producing team. So that's a really good opportunity. You know, if like I said, if acting's not your thing, or even if it is, it's still like in alignment, you know, you're still like getting to know people in the industry. And it really is like, there are very few actors who are producers as well these days. So, you know, I would recommend as much as possible, like finding some sort of alignment with your career so your 9 to 5 doesn't feel so draining, so that it feels like it's feeding your creative energy, you know, and like
So
helping you develop.
you would say like, in terms of like a second job to help back up like your acting pursuits, keep it kind of based in the industry to kind of keep you just around that general.
If you can.
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, that's, you know, that's kind of like the advice I got a little too late when I was like already a little bit sort of fatigued.
Yeah.
But I do think if you, as much like alignment as you can find is really great, but you also like, you really have to pay your bills and think about your time energy wise. And I mean, like, believe me, like the time that you have in your 20s, like the energy that you have in your 20s is very different than the energy you have in your 40s and 30s. So like, this is a great time to really like, you know, work longer hours and put in that time to really, you know, figure out like if this is the right path for you, if you enjoy it, because like that's the other thing is like, not everybody's great. You know what I mean? Like, and so as much as possible, work with people you think are awesome, you know, and who you truly admire, because otherwise, you know, you're like giving your energy to people who really don't deserve it. You know, they're not at your level. So that would be my best advice, with the big caveat, we all still need to pay our bills.
Yeah.
So, you know, like do what you can, you know, but I would just say like, if you find yourself in an environment that you're like, this seemed cool until I got here, start looking for another job, you know?
Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Or just be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna give myself a year to work at this job to like build up my skills, build up my resume. But after that, I'm out, you know, because it just, you know, it just is draining to work with people who are not nice, you know, or whatever it is. People are not nice, people who are like lackluster, who are cynical, or, you know, whatever it is that works for you, because some people cynical works for them. And, you know, it would like drain the life out of me.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I was always wondering, like, when we were talking about on our phone call last week about social media presence as well. Like, there's, just because, you're like an aspiring actress, but let's say you are working as a PA, that's a lot of what your, like, a lot of what your success is also made up of is how present you are on social media, how much of your face you're getting out there so people remember you. so people can refer to you like, oh, like, yeah, I saw that girl on TikTok and she's really good at acting. Let's say like you post an acting video and that's how you get noticed. That's how you get, agents or managers to be like, oh, like I remember this face if they ever see you like in a casting room. It's that kind of thing that you.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure how much time casting directors have to be on TikTok. Like their shit, it happens really fast for them, and they are looking at like 400 pictures a day. But I will say that is a question that people ask is like, agents specifically will be like, what's your social media presence? Who are the casting directors you have relationships with? And, as much as you can get to know these people, like the better. But again, you have to do something that works for you. Like Cardi B was saying, like, take that business class. Again, like there are people who are naturally like born to be business people, and you have to like just keep on honing that skill for yourself. But you have to do what works for you. If you're feeling like completely overwhelmed by like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, blah, 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 Twitter, like pick one, and like one that works for you, one that feels like a good flow, because like the more you feel good about what you're doing and feel confident about your group of friends and the work that you're doing and your stability as, financially and emotionally, like the more that is all together, the better everything's going to be.
You talked a little about like meeting the casting directors and friends and everything like that, but like how would somebody actually do that? Because just kind of putting yourself out there, especially if you have like social anxiety or like where would you meet these people? Like what do you do? Because like even me, I'm trying to like do that and it takes a lot of effort. Like how would you go about, or how have you gone about like just doing that and building your own circle up?
So a lot of it is Sienna and I were talking about this. Like I had this agency meeting that I literally like left and like cried in my car for like 20 minutes because she was like very, very, she was very honest, but she was just like, do you know any casting directors? Do you blah, 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 you've got to have a strategy. You've got to like look at under fives. You have to, build this career. So at that point, I didn't have a relationship with any casting directors. Like I'd been to auditions, but I didn't like see them ever again. But the thing is like, once you are able to get in with an agent, they will oftentimes they usually have relationships with casting directors, and they will send you into like some casting directors, you'll see them again and again and again. And that's how you develop a relationship with them, because you were literally meeting them many times, so they get to see you, it's just like high conversations while they're setting up the camera and things like that. But, for someone who doesn't have representation, my best advice is, once again, apply for as many auditions as you can, and then go to them. And also, when you find yourself with an extra $60, $120, take a class. And it's usually like, it can be like an evening class, or it can be like a 5-week class with a casting director who's casting something that you think you would be good for. And, nothing may come of that class, but casting directors have memories like elephants. Like if they have made a connection with you and like have gotten to interact with you in like a 5-week class, they're going to remember you for like 15 years. It's crazy. It is mind blowing how much casting directors, like, they remember everybody.
Right.
So I guess on that note, something I started to wonder about was kind of relating to casting directors and just the brutally honest feedback that can come from people, especially in like the film kind of industry when you're starting out. Do you have any advice you would give in terms of taking negative feedback from people evaluating your work?
I would say, like casting directors overall are probably some of the nicest people you'll meet in the industry. I mean, you'll be pleasantly surprised, like, because they see so many people. But my biggest advice would be, if you're going to any casting, be nice to the person who's taking your name to check you in. Like, that's like number one. always be nice to everybody, because that person will tell them if you're a dick, and you'll never get cast with them. But two, if someone gives you negative feedback, take a breath, say okay, and then make the adjustment. You know, if they're going to give you another opportunity to do it and it's a little off-putting, just nod, say okay, and do your best to do it again. But I will tell you this, being angry is like one of the things that creates fire for actors. So don't doubt, that's going to help you. So just understand that, like, that shit that they're saying to you, it may really fucking sting, but it's about to make you on fire. So just like take it with a grain of salt, just say okay, and do your best to make that adjustment in the right way. Do what they say, you know? Now, what I will say is what's important is if it crosses the line into mistreatment in an audition, again, you just say okay, you do what they want, and you get the fuck out, because you only have 5 minutes in there anyway. So you just, you know, you say okay, you do what they want, and you get out, and you don't talk to anybody in the waiting room. You don't bitch about it to anybody, maybe to your mom, whatever, but like, just get out. But if it gets to a point where you're on a set and you're being mistreated, that's when you really have to, like, you finish the scene, because everything's on a timeline. It's fully okay to take 5 if you need it, just to cool off. Because there is like a fine line between like anger spurring you into action and anger totally dysregulating you. And one's productive and one's completely counterproductive and is going to tailspin you. So my best advice is, you know, like do a quick check-in. Just take a breath, just say, okay, give me just a minute. And then try if you can to mirror back to them what their adjustment was. So, you know, say like, okay, what I'm hearing is you'd like me to change my action. You'd like me to play the action of this. Is that right? And if they're giving you like some sort of like, if it starts getting to be too much, just be like, okay, I think I know what you mean. Cause sometimes like it can be a little too much. I think I know what you mean, and just try your best. But if it is crossing the line between mistreatment, that's when you have to take 5 and you have to figure out who the person on set is you can talk to, who can help them temper their reality.
Right. That's actually really good advice.
Great advice.
It's great advice because honestly, the community is so small, and word travels so extremely fast.
Oh yeah, people have bad reputations for a reason.
Absolutely, you know? And honestly, like especially for new actors, like that can make or break your career real fast. Like to the point where you can't even get into an audition room because they're like, like I heard about you, you're difficult to work with. Like that's just not it.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, it's really, really hard because people will say some fucked up things, and like, you know, and
you just have to take it.
Or you just have to, like, honestly, don't take it in. Just be like,
yeah,
like you just kind of have to say okay, and then do what you think they want. Do it best, and like if you get into an altercation with someone, just feel like, okay, I think we need to take 5. I think we need to take 5 and regroup, because like sometimes, you know, it is a fine line between like the anger that's going to help you and the anger that's going to completely spiral you in a bad way. And that can happen, you know, it's like everything's under a time pressure crunch. People come from all sorts of different backgrounds, and some of them are not nice. And so, you know, like, but just because their background wasn't nice doesn't mean you have to take their shit, you know?
So all in all, at the end of the day, like protect yourself, like you said, as much as you can, but also be prepared to do what you have to do just to get through the day, because that really just, that kind of mindset, that willpower, that will depend the success of your career.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, because you have to, you know, like the thing is like you have to develop your resilience in life. Like life is full.
Right.
And, you know, and it's just like the more you can like, you know, work on the skill of not taking things personally, and, you know, work on the skill of just, getting the work done, like the more of an asset you're going to be to yourself and everybody else.
I think that might be the biggest thing to consider when it comes to someone critiquing your art or your performance is like, oh, it's not against me personally. It's just feedback that might have been,
Yes.
Yeah.
Because and also like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this with like older people, like they feel like they don't have to temper what they say at all. And like, you're like, okay, let's just, let's be a little bit nicer about it. But yeah, it's not, at the end of the day, everybody wants to get the job done. And if you can get the job done with as little like conflict as possible, except with your characters and in your scene, like keep the conflict there, and yeah. And just do your best to try not to take it personally. I mean, sometimes some stuff sneaks in, and I've had to run to the bathroom for a cry. Don't get me wrong. Funny.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you gotta like, you're like, hang on a second, I just gotta.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good final advice to end the podcast with. Just protect your heart, but also know like you gotta do what you gotta do at the end.
Hard out here, so you just
It's hard out here. You gotta do what you gotta do. But make sure that you're going in with the mind that, okay, I'm gonna do the best that I can, and then you can't say that you didn't try your best at the end of the day. So that's what.
So it's such a pleasure to meet you all, and I just can't wait to see like what you guys do with your career, and yeah, I want you to not take things personally and just to really find what's going to make you really, really happy.
Everything you said has been great.
Top notch advice. Absolutely. It's like we could take so much away from what you just
I'll definitely
but like text me is better because then I'll be able to be in touch. Yeah, guys, and just keep going. You're gonna meet so many cool people, and like the cool people are gonna far outweigh the people who are crazy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining me on this conversation. I hope whoever is listening to this or who will be listening to this, I hope they got a lot from what we talked about today. There was a lot on the table, but all in all, at the end of the day, you work hard, you protect yourself, you build your foundation, and you can make it as long as you have the will to pull through. That's basically everything with any job, obviously, but actor, the film industry in particular, you're gonna have to have that heart, that exterior to work with.
This is so great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. So good to meet you.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.